how can you recognize within yourself, whether that's a physical feeling or something happening emotionally, like how can you recognize when it's time to change your career or make a pivot or perhaps ask to jump horizontally across to different roles? Like how can people recognize that within themselves or within their job?
Well, one, everybody can, there's ebbs and flows. And this is just with life, we go through periods where we're ebbing and when we're like in the flow, right? And if you find yourself in the ebb for too long, and I think that's where intuition comes into it, right? And that's where I do think you have to get a little woo to really tap into that next, if you are going to pivot or if you are, feeling unfulfilled in your job, like there are bigger questions that you need to ask yourself. And I think part of it is that people either have a little bit of resistance towards that and not wanting to go deep because of fear or just inconvenience. But if you've been in that ebb for too long, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel either, it's like career depression where you're just like, if you're really depressed at work, but other parts of your life are better or okay, like then it might just be work. If you're depressed overall, you might be depressed, and there might be different issues and why. But if you're going to work every day and you're just like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. How did I get here? Why is this what I'm doing now? Like, is this the rest of my life? Like, if you're asking those questions, that might be a sign, a red flag sign that you need to start either, testing the water somewhere else or just asking other people, are you going through this too? I think also people don't talk about it. And if they do talk about it, it's just in a way of, commiserating with each other, like, oh, I hate my job, know. And
there's not anything helpful coming out of that.
Yeah. And so that's when either if you have a mentor, great. If you don't, you can get a coach or talking to, somebody who you admire, somebody who has kind of a similar background to you, but they have already done the pivot and talking to them like, why did you do that? How did you do that? What can I do to maybe start moving in that direction?
Yeah, I hear that a lot, actually. People on the podcast have talked about when they've taken big leaps of faith, started their own law firm, took a gap year for a year. Instead of asking people within their circle that have never done that before, which is no judgment on them, but they're like, why would I ask someone who's never done what I want to do? I'm going to ask someone who I can see as an example what their path was like for them. And like you said, sometimes it takes that third-party objective person to come in and help you. So if you are having those questions or you are feeling that career depression like you spoke about, it's really great to speak to a career coach like yourself or working perhaps with a therapist or someone to be able to have that objective view to be able to help you put some of those priorities or those questions in line for yourself. So I think that's super important is to have a mentor, a coach, someone that you can rely on to not just commiserate with you like sometimes our work colleagues can do.
Like sometimes you need that.
There's a place for that.
Time and place for that for sure.
But when you're ready to level up or you're ready to make a change or you're uncertain about something, sometimes going to the same people that are in the same mess
you're
as
just
you.
in an echo chamber.
Echo chamber,
and
for sure.
That's not really going to help you move the needle. And I will also say, just as like a point, a therapist and a coach are two very different things.
Exactly.
So if you are basically a coach is future oriented. So like goal setting, accountability, figuring out, skills assessment for careers anyway, skills assessments, even like resume writing and cover letter writing and, all personality assessments within the lens of like going forward. Whereas a therapist, they're going to diagnose you if you have any kind of mental illness or mental illness or, dive into all the past stuff. So that is a differentiation that I think is really important because I think a lot of people are like, well, is a coach just like a therapist gallivanting around without a degree? And it's like, no, it's different.
It's so different.
Yeah, therapists aren't going to tell you what to do, whereas a coach isn't necessarily going to tell you what to do, but they're going to like very firmly push you. Or, I was on a coaching call the other day and we were going through something and I was, there was a point where it's like, given all of this is probably not the best route for you. Do you agree or no? And you having an open conversation about that.
Totally.
So it's different.
I think that's a really important differentiator because also in my private coaching that I've done before, there's been times where I've had to be like, this is out of my scope. Like,
Yes.
this is like, I am recommending so-and-so as a therapist because that's out of my scope as a coach. And I think it's really important for coaches listening as well, like knowing where your boundaries lie, knowing where your scope lies, and knowing what the outcome is that you are as a coach trying to help your client attain.
Yeah.
And I really like that idea of coaches are future focused and therapists are not necessarily only past focused, but they're not going to tell you, okay, these are the next steps that you need to do because they're trying to help you
Right.
kind of uncover some of that of the past. So that's a
Yeah.
really good differentiator. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.